gentlemen, welcome to Destiny Education Hanging with the Fellas podcast with your host, Twana.
Hey, gentlemen, welcome to Tuesday and Hanging with the Fellas podcast. I'm Twana with Destiny Education. So, what is it about figuring out what we want that is so complicated? Why does it seem like such an impossible task? Shouldn't it be easy to decide what it is we want? Well, that's exactly what we're going to talk about tonight. How do we figure out what exactly it is we want? Let's start with our scripture for the night, shall we? Delight thyself also in the Lord, and he shall give thee the desires of thine heart. Psalm 37:4 from the King James Version. You know, a lot of times when we hear that, we think that if we just sit back and wait, God is going to give us what we want. That's not quite how that works. And so that's what we want to talk about. Why is it that we struggle with what we want? What is it that's so complicated about that? You see, you will never figure out what you want until first you understand these next 2 points. Number 1, shame, doubt, lack of expectation are all things that keep us away from what we want. Romans 8:1 tells us there is no condemnation to those who are in Christ Jesus. If there's no condemnation, guess what else there isn't? Shame. We are going to make mistakes in this world, and we have to understand that we're going to make those mistakes. Because until we understand that we are fallible and we often err, we can't accept that things are not always going to go our way. And that mindset keeps us divided from the things that we say we want. Because secretly what we're doing is we're living with this river of negativity that is killing us from the inside out. Doubt. The Lord says in the word, forgive my doubt. He knew we were going to have doubts. Listen, here's the thing I want you to understand. The thing that God is not missing in all of this. You have never met him face to face. Let me rephrase that. Many of you have never seen him face to face. You are not in his presence on a daily basis the way that the angel Gabriel or the archangel Michael is in his presence every day. You're not aware of every single miraculous thing that he does on a daily basis. He knew that. He knew there were going to be times when you had doubt. And we see that riddled throughout the word. Gideon, who was behind the winepress, Moses, who was like, I can't do this. And then he became Moses. Elijah had doubts. Remember, he went and set on fire all these Baal priests. And the next day, he just was like, I just want to die. And so God sent him food and rest. Shame and doubt keep us from what it is we want. Finally, lack of expectation. How lack of expectation works is that we are supposed to expect. Hebrews 11:6 tells us, without faith, it is impossible to please God. For those who come to him must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. I want you to understand something. Expectation is riddled throughout that. Every time you do something for God, you should be expecting a reward for the work that you've done. And the reason that you expect that reward is because he needs to know that you realize what it is to truly have a father. And for those of you who come from backgrounds where you don't, I understand. Wow, I come from that same background. But over time, what God did was he took me through different challenges, and he got to a place when he realized that I was going to stay with him, that he started to ask me to have an expectation of a reward. Now, I don't get to choose what that reward is. Oftentimes I ask, Gulfstream G7, Porsche Cayenne, take your pick, right? There's any number of things that I want. but the gift is always more than I expect. Number 2, instead of believing the Bible, you believe the people. People will always lead you astray. Let's talk about that first. We have too many people out here who have something to gain for doing their pastorship. There are some people that are accused. I want to give you an example. T.D. Jakes. I love T.D. Jakes. Boy, T.D. Jakes puts out some meaty messages. You know who else I love? Michael Todd. Those two men can put the word in a way that is so eloquent and beautiful. And well, Michael Todd makes it really simple to understand, but T.D. Jakes, boy, T.D. Jakes can take you to that place. The depth, like you have to digest his messages over time. He's not someone that you can sit down and listen to for 3 hours or an hour and a half and get everything he said. You'll think you did, but then 2 weeks later, you go and listen to the message again, and you're like, oh my goodness, because your body can only absorb so much of the beautiful information that T.D. Jakes gives you. Yet, even though he is that eloquent and that strong in the word, he still has people who come against him and say, oh, T.D. Jakes is a prosperity gospel. He's all this. So here's the thing I want you to understand. This is why we don't listen to the people. Broke people are always going to tell you that you can't. They're going to tell you that that's not what God is about and it's all about poverty. That's because they are misinformed. And when you understand that people can only give you where they are at that stage in life, you start to realize that there's no reason for you to be angry at them. While some of them will be trying to lead you astray, most of them just don't know. They're not wise in that particular area. Does that make sense? And so when you sit there and you're listening to these pastors who are like, oh, the Lord is going to do something. All you got to do is pray. Nah, baby, all you got to do is pray. Prayer is important. You got to put that petition before the Father. But remember, Jesus told you when he gave you the Lord's Prayer, you already know what I need before I come to you. So now I'm just bringing back your petition to you. So prayer is a key component of this. But let me tell you what else is a key component of this. It's you being out there doing what you need to do. It's you being out there seeking the Lord, and it's you being in the Word on a daily basis. Not a weekly basis, a daily basis. Because if you're not in the Word on a daily basis, you're not renewing your mind every day. And so you start to fall prey to people when you stop putting yourself in the Word on a regular basis. Those are the two ways that we keep ourselves from the things that we want. Understanding that these are two of the major ways that we keep ourselves from the things that we want. How do we get started? Well, I'll tell you what, you won't find what you want unless you know these 3 secrets. And number 3 is the game changer. Number 1, money is a byproduct, never the goal. You see, many of us have money as our goal. What that says about us is that we are not comfortable with our financial situation. We're all about how can I make money? How can I bring in money? I need money to survive. Those are all factual statements, all true. You need all of those things, but you need something bigger. We get trapped in looking at the money when we don't have that something else that gives us the fulfillment that we need. And that's where that problem comes in. And that's when the money shifts and it becomes your God. And let me tell you about money. Money ain't no joke. Money will up and abandon you. Money is like women. The more you chase her, the faster she runs. The more you chase money, the faster it runs. The more you turn your back and go, whatever, do what you do. The more it's like, why are you walking away from me? No, you can't walk away from me. And now she begins to chase you. You see, when you understand that that's how money works, guess what you stop doing? You stop chasing it. You say, you know what? I'm going to turn this tide. And I'm going to make sure that you start following me everywhere I go. Number 2, the goal is the change you want, not the money you may never make. You know, we all start off with a desire for money. In fact, some of the most successful businesses in the world started off as a desire to make money. At some point, that desire for money metamorphoses and it becomes a purpose-driven project. There becomes a reason. People begin to believe in whatever it is they're doing. And it's at that point that their belief shifts that all of a sudden, the money begins to follow. It's the craziest thing. Y'all, I'm telling you, I swear to you, until I saw it, I didn't believe it. Like, I would always listen to people say this, right? They would always talk about it, but I never saw it. I never experienced it. What I realized was that at the core of my being, what I wanted was really money. And I just wasn't being honest with myself about that. And when I reached a place that I said, you know what? I need money not to be the thing that drives me. Because where it's coming from is a place of fear, a place of lack, of feeling like there's not enough, but there was always more than enough. I just was blind to it. We often don't realize that we're blind to our own shortcomings. You see, we can start a venture and money may never come. Not every venture proves profitable to a level, or the majority of small businesses wouldn't make under $100,000 a year. If you understand that, that's where the game begins to change. And I want you to see that, because it's an amazing thing when you realize, wow, I'm out here truly making a difference. Then when you're doing things like community service content, as Myron Golden calls it, that's the stuff you do for free. You don't even stop to think about the fact you do for free. You start to challenge yourself to get better. How do I bring these gentlemen something deeper, something that really opens them up so that they can move forward and become the kings that they're designed to be? You see, no matter what or how big we grow, the one thing I want you to always understand is that I sit here knowing that you're a king. And the reason I know you're a king is because I know how God created you. Listen, baby, you don't have to be sitting in a place of kingship right now. David wasn't in a place of kingship out there with the sheep when he got crowned as king by Samuel. It didn't happen. What did happen is that over time, he grew into the role he was given. You see, as long as you're willing to allow yourself to grow into that role, you will get there, and you will get there before your life ends. And I want you to understand that, because this world is so hard, especially if you are a Black man. Let me explain something to you. Here's the thing I want you to always understand. If you got skin that looks like mine, there ain't no royalty like you. Let me explain to you why. Because when you understand the qualities and characteristics of a king, you should always see yourself. Number one, you stand strong and you stand firm, even in the face of adversity. Look at Thurgood Marshall. Look at all the men who were the Red Tails, the Tuskegee Airmen. Those men had to bite their tongues as they were talked down to, as they were told they were stupid, as people tried to prevent them from flying. And while they had to fly around people who absolutely hated them and didn't want them, guess what? Their silent steadfastness, which is something that you have to walk through every day. While you sit at tables with bosses who talk about, oh, I'm a Trumper and I know that Black people are doing this, doing that, doing the other, and you got to keep your mouth shut. You see, people don't often understand what it takes to do that, because really what you want to do is you want to stand up and you want to say some things that you're not supposed to say to a boss. But it's that silent steadfastness that is feeling overwhelming, but it's building the exact foundation you need to rise into your kingship, to build your kingdom, and to be able to stay there. All men have that ability, but I'm speaking specifically to the Black men right now, because especially as we are in this season of life, I know you are getting beat down every which way. And I want you to be okay, because I see you. My grandfather was one of those men who took his pain and held it and did what was right. I meet more men like that because that's the expectation that I have for you, because that's the part of you that I can't miss. The money will follow when your purpose is bigger than you. When your kingdom involves how you will help others, money will flock to you in major ways you've never seen before. Number 3, and this is the one that will change your life. Focusing on the goal makes your wants easy. This is the key that is going to open the door for you. I'm going to share a story with you. When Destiny first started, my goal was to develop and sell courses. The problem was that as I began to develop these courses, I didn't like them. They were just empty, and they were shells, and they were things that didn't matter. Like, there were maybe 20% of the population out there who would be able to use them and actually get something out of them. And I sat back and I go, why am I here? They have hired me here. Why am I here? What is it that I want to do? The day I crossed the threshold was the day when I realized, number 1, that my calling was really to work with men. As terrifying as that was, I understood that that was my calling. I understood that it meant I was going to have to toe a line and hold a mark, because there are a number of men who try to talk to me in a non-professional manner, and that's not okay. Sorry, we're not here to have that level of dialogue. We're not here to have that type of conversation, and I'm not interested in that conversation with you. Now, if you get to a point that you want to learn how to build your kingdom and be about something more than just yourself, I'm your girl. You want to talk about what you want to do on a Friday night? I am not your girl. You feel me? When I realized that, okay, we need to empower these men who are being brutalized, especially here in the U.S. on a regular basis. Now, how do we do that? That was when the entire world shifted. That was when every course we had suddenly had this power, and the world opened up, and I started creating more books and had more to say, and found workbooks and ways to help you figure out what the process was to come from a place where you're in all this pain, but now you're coming out of that pain, but you're walking through it, to help you understand the concept of what it means to walk through. And the world just began to open. And that was the greatest day. And I share that story with you because I'm promising you that that will be your experience when you start putting into practice, focusing on the goal. Now listen, your goal can start small. When you're new to this, that's what you need to do. Evaluate what kind of thinker you are. For me, I'm a global thinker. I see the big picture. I can see the picture 20 years down the road. My struggle has always been, how do I get the steps in there so that in 20 years I reach this point? So it took me being willing to grow to start to see, okay, this is where I want to be at in 20 years, which means I have to be here in 10, here in 5, and this is where I start. And so these are the things that we have to look at. You know, one of the things that used to always frustrate me back in the day is that I would go to these gurus, right? The Tony Robbins of the world, the T. Harv Eckerts, and I would go to these things and I would have these experiences, and you walk away with this rah 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 shish boom bah, and I tell you, like clockwork, 72 hours later you're off that high and nothing changes. And I would go home and I would put into place the things that they were saying, and nothing would happen. And I want to explain to you why you're having that experience. That experience comes because we don't understand the steps. Let me tell you about this book that Russell Brunson put together. He pulled 30 of his biggest clients and said, okay, how have you found success? If you had 30 days and all you had was a few things, if you lost everything and you only had 30 days to make it back, what would you do? Well, Myron Golden was the one that I chose to follow. And as I went through his 30 days, the end of 30 days, I would make some headway, but I didn't make it all the way that I wanted to get to. And so I went back through the book and I said, okay, let's do this again. Let's figure out what we don't know. Well, let me tell you what finally happened. I realized that what it was I didn't know was the marketing aspect of it. That was not my thing. every time I had done something, there was somebody else there who could market. But that wasn't going to be the case here. And so I would go and I would try the things he would suggest, and they wouldn't work. I didn't have enough information. I kept having these experiences where I kept falling. I'd get back up and I'd fall again, and I'd get back up and I'd fall again. What happened is that I kept building this resolve. It's like, I am going to do this. Finally, the day came that we went and we did the 30-day, and we exceeded every goal that we had originally had. And the reason that it happened is because I had allowed that pain, that struggle, that hardship to build up that foundation that I needed to get to that next level. You see, too many times what you do is you take those hits and you let them defeat you. That's not who you were designed to be. The challenges that you face are never designed to beat you. They're designed to empower you so that you overcome, so that you can grow and that you can move forward. And I need you to understand that. Not for me, for you. Challenges always need to be viewed as a thing that is driving you to be better than you imagined you can be. So, when it comes to thinking about what you want, you must first focus on the goals that you have. What is it that you really see yourself doing? And if it's being a banker, okay, let me ask you a question. How can you change the banking industry so that the bias and systemic issues that already live there are not a problem? What can you do to develop new things that allow people to become better and to reach the goals that they have? What happens when the privilege that some experience is equated or open to all? How does that change a person's experience? When something like that becomes your goal, you'll be the most sought after banker in the world, because people will come to you for your wisdom. They will come to you to help them grow. And as a result, they will be loyal to you. You can go from bank 1 to bank 2 to bank 5. They will follow you through every bank. They may not close their previous banking account, but I'll tell you what, they'll be opening up new bank accounts because they fell in love with you as the person, because they know that you care about them. People first have to know that they matter to you, that you're concerned about what's going on with them and not just what they can do for you. When they know you care, it will develop in them a loyalty you never thought possible or imaginable. It will change your life. So as you're looking at, okay, what career do I want to go into? Look at that banker example. That's how you change your goal. That's how you create your goal. That's how you begin to develop your want. And that example shows you exactly how money is a byproduct. By focusing on what you could do for each and every individual around you, the money instantly came your way. I'll see you next week.